Live from WRAL News Headquarters in Raleigh, your number one source for local news. WRAL News, coverage you can count on.
And take a look at the sunshine here in Fayetteville, really doing its magic to start the melting process across the area. I'll show you how, we'll take a look at how things are looking across the area and when temperatures will continue to warm up.
Strain on the power grid and school systems. How this past weekend's winter weather is causing impacts lasting into this week.
Plus, an update in the search for Nancy Guthrie, what we have learned about the missing person investigation of the Today Show host mother, and why crime scene investigators are involved in this. Well, our weather alert day ended about 10 this morning, but there are still some snow and ice-covered spots out there. This is what's causing some messy roads and slippery walkways as well. But we'll get you all caught up on what we're dealing with right now. Thanks for joining us. I'm Chris Lovingood.
And I'm Renee Chu. We have team coverage from the roads to the extended impacts, such as the school closings and power grid strains. We begin with meteorologist Elizabeth Gardner in the WRAL Severe Weather Center. Sure nice to see that sunshine warm things up a little bit.
It is, and just watching from this morning to now, I've seen a lot of melting out there on our cameras, and so that's good news. Our advisories have expired, so we also no longer have a WRAL weather alert day for today. Melting is happening out there. The next thing that happens is we will see some refreezing overnight tonight, and then a chance of rain Tuesday night and again Wednesday night with the potential for a little wintry mix, but I wouldn't expect a lot of impact. Here's a live look at Apex. We've seen a lot of melting just in the last 2 or 3 hours here downtown Apex on Salem Street. 33 is our current temperature. We should climb all the way up to 40 degrees. And the more snow melts, the easier the temperatures will be to continue to warm up. Early on, when there's a lot of snowpack, the sun's energy goes into melting the snow and not so much warming up the air. And so gradually we'll start to see our temperatures climbing. Taking a look at wind speeds and gusts, not bad at all. As a matter of fact, we don't have gusty winds. Our winds continue to settle down. So in terms of wind chill, there's not much out there. It does feel like 28 in Goldsboro and 31 in South Hill, 29 in Roxborough. But temperatures right now are in the low 30s. It is Groundhog Day today. We're looking at temperatures climbing up to around 40 degrees with that sunshine. And we know that Punxsutawney Phil saw a shadow. And of course, lore says that means we're going to see 6 more weeks of winter. But scientifically, what are our chances for that? We'll take a look coming up.
Elizabeth, thank you. Our storm tracker has been monitoring conditions on the road all morning.
Yeah, that's where we find WRAL's Carly Haynes. She's been driving around this afternoon. And Carly, on which road are you and how are the conditions there?
So we're on Ebenezer Church Road right now. I'm going to show you what it looks like. Pretty clear right now. And as we've been driving around for the past hour and a half or so, a lot of the primary roads are going to look like this. And that's a good thing because that sun is really helping to melt some of the snow and ice that are on the roads right now. And that's across Raleigh, that's across Cary. But then the attention turns to secondary roads. So we're turning into a neighborhood right now. This is Eden Park Drive. And just look at the difference when you see this here. You'll notice a lot of those shaded spots, and that's what makes this really difficult. That part of the road has not melted yet, and it makes it really difficult for people to come out. When we're talking about school districts that are making those decisions to close school, to add those 2-hour delays, they're not just looking at the primary roads, they're looking at things like this because they need to make sure that neighbors can get out across a very large county where you're going to have some neighborhoods that maybe are more tucked back into woods where they get a lot more of that tree shade versus some of those interstates and primary roads that are out more into the sun. So you can see that this is difficult. You got some slushy parts like where we're coming on right now, but then also that sheet of ice with that more powdery precipitation on top. So we're really going to need to depend on that sun to help with this ice melt a little bit more. Carly Haynes, WRAL News, live in the Storm Tracker.
Carly, thank you. If you've been out on the roads, you've noticed that the interstates and many of the major roads are clear, but the Department of Transportation calls those primary roads. Those are the ones their crews hit first after winter storms. Today, they are going back over some of the primary roads that they missed yesterday or the shady roads that are still icy, as you saw from the storm tracker. Then they'll head into communities to clear those secondary roads.
We know a lot of folks are going stir crazy. They want to get out of their driveway. They want to get out of their subdivision. And I know they're antsy, but we are on our way to you. I can guarantee that.
Keep in mind, DOT only clears subdivisions that they maintain. Spokesperson Kim Diener says the best way for you to find out if that's your neighborhood is by Googling state-maintained roads. If they're the ones responsible for your road, you can contact them to alert them of the conditions of your neighboring road.
Well, Wake County students have the day off today as the roads continue to thaw out from this weekend's snowstorm, and most students will make up that day in about 2 weeks. WRAL's Destiny Patterson is live outside Washington Elementary School. Destiny, you talked to district officials about how they exactly make these calls.
Chris, that's right. I mean, take a look. It's very quiet on this school campus here as they're closed today, but that's largely because we're still seeing situations like this icy and snow-covered side roads. We've talked a lot about how the major highways and primary routes are clear, but we are still seeing a lot of neighborhoods that are dealing with the lingering impacts from this weekend's winter weather. And a district spokesperson tells me that that is their main concern, is making sure that the conditions throughout the neighborhoods are going to be safe, especially for the school buses. They have to be able to drive through those areas in order to make bus stops.
I think they've done a good job. I think safety obviously is the most important thing. So I think that, I think if people are unsafe driving on the roads, then that's the call they need to make.
Now, we've heard from several parents, that one that you just heard from, but we've also heard from other parents who do have the question of if some areas are in better shape, then can some campuses still open? Now, the spokesperson tells me that that's possible, but it's not likely because many people throughout the county work or go to school at campuses across the county. So it may be safe in one area, but maybe not necessarily safe where they're heading to go to school. Destiny Patterson, WRAL News, 11 Wake County.
And with how cold it is, Duke Energy is working overtime. It is why this morning they asked customers to limit their energy usage. But why? WRAL's Sean Gallagher joins us now. And Sean, did Duke Energy give you any indication as to why they made this request from customers?
Yeah, well, basically, they want to avoid any temporary outages like we saw around Christmas time in 2022. And they picked this time frame because energy use peaks in the morning. And with the added in cold temperatures, they anticipated that their systems would be pushed to the max. So Duke Energy made that request to people to reduce power from 4 a.m. until 10 a.m. today. And by lowering temperatures in homes, avoiding using any major appliances, and turning off unnecessary devices. Duke Energy tells me it was successful with a number of customers heeding that request. But my biggest question for Duke Energy was, why aren't they prepared for surges in use like this? Here's what they had to say.
We are seeing more customers moving in here. We're seeing advanced manufacturing, data centers, and other groups coming here. But it's really more the combination today, mostly of residential customers plus the businesses opening up and doing things. Certainly a lot of businesses were delayed in their start today, so that actually helped keep demand lower as well. But that's one of the reasons that we're building new generation in the state.
Now, even though it will continue to be cold this week, Jeff Brooks with Duke Energy tells me they aren't anticipating requesting a reduction from customers again during this stretch of cold weather, but of course that could change. Now, he also tells me he's received questions about if data centers are to blame for this request in reduction. He says data centers only make up about 1% of their peak usage, and they have been online for about 10 years now with Duke. So he says they are not to blame for these requests in reduction. In Raleigh, Sean Gallagher, WRAL News.
3 more homes along the Outer Banks collapsed into the ocean this morning, and they were all in Buxton. Another home fell just yesterday morning. Let's go ahead and bring in Luis Fernandez to talk more about this. And Luis, blizzard conditions along the coast, these are what's to blame for this.
Yeah, Chris, the homes that are falling were once hundreds of feet away from the water. New pictures show the debris all over the beach and in the ocean this morning. You see here on your screen, one house fell early Sunday. The other 3 dropped into the ocean overnight. The beaches in this area were closed prior to the storm because officials were concerned this would happen. The weekend weather brought 60-mile-per-hour winds and created high tides. The high tide flooded many areas of Hatteras Island. Ocean overwatch was still occurring in Buxton this morning. That's why portions of Highway 12 remain closed right now. Each collapse sets off a costly and dangerous chain reaction, spreading hazardous debris for miles and miles. Volunteers often gather to clean up the beachfront, but there's so much more in the water. 31 homes have now collapsed into the ocean on Hatteras Island.
Goodness, 31. All right, thanks, Lewis. And make sure you have the WRAL weather app to keep up to date on the latest forecast and conditions. It's free to download.
New at noon, a news conference just wrapped up on the disappearance of Nancy Guthrie. She's the mother of Today anchor Savannah Guthrie.
Yeah, the sheriff's office says after further investigation, they do believe this is a crime. WRAL's Ken Smith, he was listening to that press conference there. He has more in the Live Center. Ken, what are we learning more about the search for Nancy Guthrie?
Well, Chris and Renee, first of all, let's talk about what the sheriff said, because when he said when officers arrived to Nancy Guthrie's home, because of the condition of the house, that's why they believe there's a crime scene. He couldn't go into details because it's still an active investigation. Guthrie's children last saw their mom around Saturday night at 10 p.m. at the house. That's when they left her. They received a call Sunday morning from church saying that Nancy Guthrie was not there. Now, the children, according to the sheriff, went to the house and probably tried to find their mom and eventually could not, so they called 911. Sheriff Chris Nano says Ms. Guthrie is of sound mind with limited physical capabilities because of her age, so this is not a case of an elderly person wandering off. The sheriff says law enforcement officers from several different agencies have been canvassing the entire neighborhood for the last 24 hours. They and the family are desperate to find Nancy Guthrie.
This is a 84-year-old lady who suffers from some physical ailments, has some physical challenges, is in need of medication that if she doesn't have in 24 hours, it could be fatal. So we make a plea to anyone who knows anything about this, who has seen something, heard something, to contact us. Call 911.
Well, Sheriff Nano says the entire Guthrie family, including Savannah Guthrie, are fully cooperating with the investigation. He says his department and others are utilizing every tool they have, including AI, canines, to find Ms. Guthrie. Of course, we'll follow any new developments here in the WRAL Live Center.
And Ken, Savannah was not on the anchor desk today, and we've learned she is in Arizona right now as investigators search for her mom. She issued a statement on behalf of her family, thanking people for their thoughts, prayers, and messages of support. She went on to say their main focus is on her mom's safe return. Savannah also thanked law enforcement for their hard work on this case and encouraged anyone with information to contact the Pima County Sheriff's Department.
Certainly hope they find her okay. Goodness. We are keeping our eye on the stocks this afternoon. As you can see right here, the Dow up almost 500 points there, so significant growth since the opening bell. The S&P 500 looks like it's up about 47 points. This is off screen. And the NASDAQ is up about 188. And looks like February right now starting off as traders are shaking off the silver and Bitcoin decline.
Next at noon, 6 more weeks of winter. Now that we know Punxsutawney Phil saw his shadow, we're getting a look at other predictions from right here at home.
Plus, call out the snow hole. A closer look at what caused Raleigh to miss out on snow for hours this past weekend.
And road to the Olympics, a preview about what makes the Milan Cortina Games so special this year.
Coming up next, see storms moving in with WRAL's exclusive Dual Doppler 5000, sponsored by the WRAL Weather app. Download now for live radar.
Well, millions of Americans are stuck in winter's deep freeze, including us here. And bad news, Punxsutawney Phil does not predict it will thaw out anytime soon. That famous groundhog says 6 more weeks of winter, despite many people hoping for an early spring.
It is my job this February, too, to look to the skies and report back to you that there is a shadow here on my ground. 6 more weeks of winter abound.
Good. Now leave Phil alone. Put him back in his little hole. The winter weather here locally has delayed or canceled some Groundhog Day traditions. Garner's groundhog, Snurd, did not make an appearance this year because of the snow.
Patience grew thin over our part of North Carolina Saturday, while other parts of the state got pounded with snow. Meteorologist Chris Michaels shows us what caused the Raleigh snow hole.
And it just seemed like that snow hole or that gap was just never going to shut. It was all day Saturday, and really by Saturday night, it finally started to close and deliver on the snow that was promised in the Triangle and Sandhills. That's where we wound up with anywhere from 2 to 6 inches. But there you see across the state, there was a widespread 6 to 12, and then a couple bubbles where there was a foot or more. And toward the coast is probably the most impressive. Areas like Newport, North Carolina, seeing 15 inches of snow. Initially, we thought this was what's called a dry slot, as you did have some dry air in the low levels of the atmosphere, but it had to do with how this storm system was comprised. It had an upper level part to the west and a lower level part to the east. So each of those areas of low pressure allowing the air to rise and getting precipitation going. So the mountains, the foothills, the Piedmont, Charlotte were getting clobbered with snow. The coast was getting all the snow, and here we sat just watching the time tick by. Reason being is in between those two different parts of the system, the air sinks. So that's why oftentimes between the mountains and the coast, you get this hole in activity, and that's what caused that lull in the activity throughout the day. Saturday, again, eventually closed it up Saturday night with anywhere from 2 to 10 inches of snow across our viewing area.
Yeah, I still think about looking at the radar when that was happening. I was like, are you serious? Or just bam, this bubble over Raleigh.
Right, and just nothing, like right where we live in the Triangle for hours and hours and hours. And as much as we were rooting for the snow or waiting for it to get here, now we're wanting it to go away. We want it to melt now, Elizabeth.
Isn't that so true? That's the way it always is. You always want what you don't have. Boy, I tell you, that was me on Sunday morning. I woke up and I was like, man, I was looking around at, everybody who had all these great snowfall totals. And then I was like, I'm just going to be grateful for what I have. And we had a great sledding day yesterday. It was so much fun. And the sun is doing its job today. This is a live look at Durham earlier this morning. We started off with a lot of snow right here in front of the American Tobacco Complex. This is a driveway that goes over there past the DPAC, and it's in the shade, and it's still fairly well covered with ice. So that's also sort of a telltale sign. Neighborhoods were very icy. The neighborhood streets that are in the sun should melt off nicely today, but anything in the shade may still be a little bit tricky. So it's probably going to be a little bit slippery tomorrow morning, but each day we warm up, of course, it melts more and more. Right now it is 33, but I tell you what, that sunshine does a lot of work, even with temperatures near freezing. And once we climb up to 40 this afternoon, we're going to really get that process going. Now, it's still going to be a little breezy and a little cool. We do have a wind chill of upper 20s for Clinton, Goldsboro, Rocky Mount, and Roxborough right now. So it's definitely chilly, but that sunshine really helps out a whole lot. So I think there were a lot of people rooting for some cloud cover today, being that it's Groundhog Day. We were all watching the feed for Punxsutawney Phil and just the big fun time they have there at Gobbler's Knob. And usually people boo when the groundhog sees its shadow. I didn't hear a whole lot of booing, but the folklore says 6 more weeks of winter. So I thought I would check and see, well, what does it really look like scientifically? There is an organization that falls under the NOAA umbrella called the Climate Prediction Center, and they run all these long-range models. We don't talk about them too often because they don't really help, with an actual forecast. They can't tell when it's going to rain or what the temperature is going to be, but it gives us trends of above or below average. And through the middle of February, we do have a chance of below average temperature. But the average high temperature right now is 53. So that could mean, a high of 50 degrees, which is a lot warmer than we've seen lately. We look ahead to February, March, and April combined, and we have a good chance of above normal temperatures. Again, that might be 55, 56, but at least it gives us some idea of where we're headed. 32 is our normal low, and we're going to be cold again tomorrow morning at 22. So we will see that refreezing pattern for tomorrow. And then Wednesday, we'll see an overnight low of 35. That should keep us out of a whole lot of snow, but we might end up on Wednesday night with the potential for a little wintry mix. And I'm going to go over that with Futurecast coming up in just a little while, so don't miss that. Our normal high is 53, and we are below that all the way through the next 5 days, and not just the next 5 days, but really the next 7 days too. Weekend planner is looking fine. We're going to see a dry cold front that comes through on Friday. It's going to usher in some colder temperatures. So we're breezy and chilly Saturday with sunshine, and then partly cloudy Sunday at 43 degrees. It'll be a bit warmer in San Francisco for the big game at 6:30, 64 degrees, and we're looking dry for the weekend, but again, it's just going to be on the chilly side. Also, we're excited about the opening ceremonies for the Olympics that happen on Friday. And really the only interesting thing happening with weather for us comes Tuesday night into Wednesday. We'll check that out in just a bit.
I like uninteresting. I like dry for the weekend, Elizabeth. No round 3, okay? We're going to have a dry weekend.
Love it.
Coming up on our news this afternoon, in the Epstein files, a new batch of files reveal that a Duke professor is named in the Epstein files. Reaction from campus at 4.
Plus, stuck with snow. Some spots look like no snow ever fell. Other spots look like it'll be days before the road is cleared. Tonight at 5:30, we're going to hear how road crews are prioritizing getting streets safe to drive. Your time is 12:21 this afternoon. Countdown to the games. Ahead, we get a look at how Italy is getting ready to host the best athletes from around the globe, and we hear what makes these games a bit different.
And coming up in our next half hour, outage response. We hear about what Duke Energy crews faced when the lights went out on the coast and in the mountains. We are just days away from the Winter Olympics opening ceremony.
Jay Gray shares what's special about this year's Milan Cortina Games.
The host is Milano Cortina.
The celebration in northern Italy now stretching to excitement around the world as the 2026 Winter Games are set to begin.
The Milano Cortina 2026 Olympic Winter Games will bring together the best winter sport athletes in Bella Italia, a country that lives and breathes passion.
This is not the first time there have been dual host cities, but in what will be the most geographically widespread games, it is the first time there will be 2 Olympic cauldrons. One in Milan, home to the major indoor events, including figure skating, hockey, and speed skating. The second in Cortina, where along with a cluster of smaller cities in the Dolomite Mountains, the competitions will include alpine skiing, luge, curling, and more. In all, these Winter Games will feature 16 disciplines with more than 3,500 athletes from 93 countries competing for 195 medals.
They have been dreaming, training, eating, sleeping towards this very important day or important time.
A time now fast approaching.
And the host cities say they are ready, mixing innovation with Italy's unique style and rich history to host the world's biggest winter party. Jay Gray, NBC News, Milan.
Oh, and hey, remember, you can watch the 2026 Winter Olympics right here on WRAL. Coverage of the opening ceremony starts at 1:40 Friday afternoon.
Still ahead, 5 on your side looks into ways that you can cut down on energy usage to save money while staying comfortable this winter.
Plus, making history. How this past weekend's snowfall was special for our state.
And here's a look at the winning North Carolina Education Lottery numbers. Don't go away. We'll be right back.
Shot in 4K ultra high definition. Your number one source for local news. WRAL News. Coverage you can count on.
Well, thank you for staying with us this afternoon. While the snow is no longer falling, it has left behind some dangerous conditions on some roads out there.
Yeah, definitely in the shady areas, but the sunshine out there is helping us crawl out of the deep freeze. Meteorologist Elizabeth Gardner joins us from the WRAL Severe Weather Center with an update on temperatures.
It's really interesting to see the big change that we've seen in the last 3 hours. For example, Fayetteville, even at 8 and 9 o'clock, there were a lot of icy patches here in the shade in particular, and now we're not seeing that at all. And our temperatures just sitting right near freezing. It's amazing the power of the sunshine. It doesn't really take the really warm temperatures. That sun's energy will really, especially on some darker pavement, like the bricks there or, some darker pavement there, it really does a number on just how much we can get melted. So this is a look at our forecast for this afternoon. 40 in Durham and Lewisburg, 38 Wilson, 38 in Fayetteville. Temperatures a little bit cooler in areas where we have the thicker snowpack because, as I mentioned earlier, the sunshine, at least at the start, is going to go into, the sun's energy will go into melting the snow. And then after the snow is melted, then it goes to heating up the atmosphere. So it just takes a little while to warm up. Our commute forecast for this afternoon looks like this: 40 at 3 o'clock, 36 at 5 o'clock, and 30 degrees at 7. And we will have temperatures that are very cold tomorrow morning. So your driving timeline for Tuesday, we're looking at medium impact from around 7 to 9. But once we hit lunchtime, it looks like it's going to be pretty good as our temperatures will stay nice and mild. Coming up, we're going to talk about a couple of chances for rain and possibly a little wintry mix by the middle of the week.
Elizabeth, thank you. Our storm tracker has been monitoring conditions on the road all morning and now this afternoon.
Yeah, really the main roads aren't really an issue. It's kind of those side roads that we've been watching, including Carly Haynes. She's driving out there right now in Cary. And Carly, you were in Raleigh earlier, now you're in Cary. What do the roads look like there?
Well, we heard about some problematic areas over around Thorpe Drive in Cary, so that's where we wanted to go. We're around Lake Drive right now, and you can see this is one of those main roads that is looking pretty clear because that sunshine really helped with that ice melt. So a lot of the primary roads that we've been seeing around Wake County have looked like this, but then all you need to do is go on to those secondary roads and you can see some more of those problems. This is where it's just really slick, where you have some of that ice melt and that slush on the roads paired with the more of that powdery snow precipitation. This is, concerning, especially on hills where you might not be able to get as much traction and then you risk not being able to get up. So this is what some of the school districts have taken into consideration when they're determining what to do with school closures or delayed schedules. They have to keep in mind all of the neighborhoods because people have to make sure they can get out of those secondary roads before they can even make it onto those clear primary roads. But the good news is we've been seeing some more plows out and about too, so they're definitely continuing their work today, and that sun is certainly helping them as well. Carly Haynes, WRAL News, live in the Storm Tracker.
Carly, thank you. We were lucky this past weekend seeing only light fluffy snowfall instead of freezing rain or sleet because that helped keep the power on across our area. Still, other parts of the state saw a lot more snow, like the mountains and the coast, and they experienced more outages. We talked with Duke Energy spokesperson Jeff Brooks this morning about how the restoration process is going.
Most of that has been restored. We have a few hot spots in the mountains. We're still working, but overall, we're in good shape. That's a good thing to be starting the week. And once we get through this cold snap, I think we'll see some relief after that.
A very encouraging update there. Now, the video you're seeing now shows the snowfall in Henderson County. Right now, the Duke Energy outage map is only showing a couple hundred outages in our mountains.
So we talked about Duke Energy's request for you to conserve energy this morning, and that ended back at 10. But there are ways that you can save energy and cut costs while staying comfortable this winter. 5 on your sides, Keely Arthur explains how.
Duke Energy is asking customers to reduce using their power until 10 a.m. today. You can do that by not using large appliances or lowering your thermostat. But here are some things you can always do. This not only will help Duke, but more importantly, help your bill. First things first, get your HVAC serviced routinely. That way you're going to avoid having to do a big replacement. Routine maintenance will help stave that off. Next, make sure outside doors are sealed. Seal gaps around windows, doors, using weather stripping, or if you don't have that, just roll up a blanket, roll up a towel, and push it against the drafty door. Close curtains when it's dark at night or on dreary days, but if it's sunny during the day, open the blinds up, let the sun come through. And then going back to doors very quickly, remember heat travels to colder spaces. So if you have a room you're not using, close that door. Finally, bundle up and drop the thermostat. All of these things will help your bill. Keely Arthur, 5 on your side.
And we do have more information about how you can prepare for winter weather and what to do when it arrives. That's all in the 5 on your side section of WRAL.com. Oh, and make sure you have the WRAL weather app downloaded to your phone so you can get up to date on the latest forecasts and conditions out there.
And happening now in the WRAL Live Center, NASA getting ready to launch the Artemis 2 mission as we take a live look at the countdown clock ahead of tonight's planned dress rehearsal at about 9 p.m. at the Kennedy Space Center. Now, cold weather and strong winds could alter those plans. The initial plan was to launch the Artemis rocket as early as February 6th, which is Friday. Engineers plan to review the results of tonight's dress rehearsal, providing it happens. Now, once the mission gets underway, the 4 astronauts on board will orbit the moon. This will be the first mission with an actual crew on board orbiting the moon for the first time in 50 years. We'll be keeping an eye on that here in the WRAL Live Center.
Ken, thank you. A national shout out. The Triangle nonprofit that's getting positive attention from the Kelly Clarkson Show and how it's helping kids thrive in a unique way.
And detecting cancer in dogs by using trained scent dogs. Why researchers say the animal's special skill could help with early detection in humans too. We always appreciate you watching. Just remember you can catch WRAL live anytime on the WRAL.com or the WRAL app on your streaming device.
This afternoon, the Kelly Clarkson Show is highlighting a Triangle-based nonprofit working to keep kids active while they learn.
So it's called the Walking Classroom. It was created and is headquartered in Chapel Hill. The program's simple. Students take brisk 20-minute walks while listening to custom-written, kid-friendly educational podcasts. They address topics in language arts, social studies, even science.
Physical activity and brain health come together.
Yeah.
And it
keeps them moving too, not just so static in one spot.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They're out there moving.
Out there moving. The Walking Classroom Institute says its podcasts are used by more than 100,000 students across the United States, both in school and out of school settings.
I think it's a really versatile tool just because it spans for so many grades and there's so many topics available that you can find something for every kid. So some teachers use it in small groups throughout the district, they'll use it. And I've used it with kids who are looking to learn the language a little bit better and are just eager to listen to the actual language. Yeah. Or kids who have had just a day that's kind of overstimulating and they need a beat to themselves and they want to take a 10-minute walk with an adult, they can do that too.
A 10-minute walk, so good for the soul, right? You're going to hear more about the Walking Classroom and how it positively impacts students' lives on the Kelly Clarkson Show this afternoon.
Yeah, it airs right here on WRAL at 2 p.m., and that is right after NBC News Daily.
All of our state saw snow this past weekend. Still ahead, meteorologist Chris Michaels shares just how rare that is for North Carolina.
Plus, life-saving training. How researchers hope dogs will be able to save the lives of other canines. Well, there is a new hope in the fight against a devastating cancer in dogs. Researchers at the Penn Vet Working Dog Center in Pennsylvania are training dogs to detect hemangiosarcoma. It's a form of canine cancer. The detecting dogs learn how to identify the cancer by smelling 3 boxes, with one containing a sample of malignant blood. In the first phase of research, the dogs identified the cancer 70% of the time.
The dogs are very unique because they have this incredible sense of smell. It just really does feel amazing and gives me a lot of respect for, understanding that there's a lot of things that I can't understand that they're picking up on.
Well, until now, the research primarily focused on human cancers, with the dogs being able to identify ovarian and pancreatic cancer. The dogs are laying the groundwork for eventually being able to find cancer early and save lives for both humans and animals, too. Well, the FDA has launched a pilot program designed to boost the U.S. production of pharmaceutical drugs. The FDA is accepting applications for its pre-check program. They say the program aims to streamline construction and cut down the review process of drug manufacturing sites in the country. The FDA also says that it will be selecting an initial group of manufacturing facilities based on their products, production timeline, and innovation.
Saturday's snow was historic in parts of North Carolina. Meteorologist Chris Michaels shows us how long it has been since every part of the state saw at least an inch of snow.
So the last time that every ounce of North Carolina had at least 1 inch of snow, you got to go back to what was called the storm of the century. It was March 1st and 2nd of 1980. Now, there were other storms where we had at least a trace of snow everywhere, but at least 1 inch, yeah, you got to go back about 46 years ago. And this is what it looked like in Lenoir County. Thanks to Amy Burke for that picture there of, that huge storm that really left a footprint across the state. Now, this is what the snow looked like during that so-called storm of the century. The white is where there was a widespread footprint of 6 to 12 inches. And then you see that the 12-inch plus mark, yeah, that was a lot more widespread than this most recent storm, not taking away from how impressive that was. In fact, both of them were very similar in how they were made up. In the upper levels of the atmosphere, you had a polar vortex that was diving down into areas like Quebec and Ontario, while you had another area of low pressure helping to generate that storm. That was near Tennessee, Alabama, and Georgia. At the surface, high pressure kept the cold air locked in, whereas low pressure was forming along the coast and meaning some big time snow totals. But we did have a little bit of that snow hole in North Carolina. What is that? What caused it? That's on WRAL.com right now if you search Ask the Meteorologist.
The dreaded snow hole. All right, a quick update about the Cooking for the Kids event that was rescheduled to kick off tonight. The culinary competition at Millbrook Manor in Raleigh features some of the region's top chefs. Organizers are pushing back the event by a day because of the weather. The event will now run from February 3rd, tomorrow, through February 24th. You'll find updates and more information at overflowinghands.org.
There has been so much juggling and rescheduling because of these winter storms, like things being moved to March or end of February. If they're moved to this weekend, hey, we might have some good weather for you, right, Elizabeth?
Hey, that's the way it's looking right now. But today's Monday, so hey, you know, the way things have gone lately, we'll see about that. Anyway, our next weather maker is a cold front that will have not too much moisture with it. Right now, it's fairly dry, but it's going to swing down to the south. It'll pull up a little bit of moisture off of the Gulf and the Atlantic, but the amounts of rain that we'll see out of this are pretty minimal. We take a look at Futurecast and or we'll take a quick look at what we're tracking. This is going to be a weaker system and it'll be a good bit warmer than the system that we saw last weekend. So some light rain here and some snow up into Virginia as this moves through. It's going to move in sort of in two parts. It will start with tomorrow at 4:30, 5 o'clock. We'll see a cold front coming through, beginning to see some of the rain ahead of this at around 10 o'clock on Tuesday. And then it pushes on through and sort of stalls over us overnight. You can see Wednesday morning, there's still a little bit of light rain. Well, that's going to push southward, and then a wave of low pressure develops along it and starts to push the rain back to the north. And when it does, it's going to sit here, and the colder air that's coming in behind the front may catch up with the precipitation. The models really like to fool us on this. A lot of times, this is not usually a very good snowmaking pattern for us. The best snowmaking pattern is the one that we saw last weekend, and then we just got messed up, as Chris was talking about earlier, where we had the two different systems and we were stuck in the middle. But anyway, here's 5 o'clock on Wednesday. There may be a little bit of a wintry mix that develops, and after 9 o'clock or so, some of that could change over to some snow showers. At this point, it looks like it's light enough that it won't cause any problems, but that is the time period that we're really kind of watching. Not worried about it Tuesday night or early Wednesday, but later on Wednesday night, where there's just that 20% chance, that's when we'd have the possibility of seeing more of a little wintry mix. And then Friday, a quick front comes through. It's going to bring us much colder temperatures for the weekend, and it should be dry. We put a 20% chance on for Friday just to cover the bases. A half an inch of precipitation in Fayetteville and Goldsboro, about a quarter of an inch in the Triangle, and then about a tenth of an inch up to the north. So it's not going to be a whole lot. Boy, we need a lot. We only saw about 2/10, about a quarter of an inch of liquid precipitation last weekend, and so at least in the Triangle. So we still have severe drought across our entire viewing area. Over the last 30 days, we've seen anywhere from about 35 to about 50 to 60% of our normal rainfall. And that's not so bad for 1 month, but we've seen that over and over since September. So we just really haven't had a chance to catch up. This is a look at our precipitation outlook. Between now and February 16th, we have equal chances of above and below normal precipitation, but we're more likely to see below normal because that's going to be just to our north and just to our south. So checking out that 7-day forecast. Of course, we're looking at about 40 degrees for this afternoon, 46 degrees for Tuesday, and then Wednesday we're going to have the potential for a little bit of a wintry mix maybe in the evening, and then turning colder for Saturday and Sunday. But right now, as Renee said, yeah, it does look dry.
We love that. Elizabeth, thank you. Athlete accommodations. We get a look at where the world-class winter athletes will be staying for the Milan Cortina Games.
We're going to take a look right now at Beaufort, looking beautiful there, nice skies, but it's a cold one out there today. However, we do have in the forecast coming up, a little rain and snow later this week. Elizabeth was talking about that.
And there's still a little bit of snow clinging to the beach there. As we wrap things up, here's a look at a few of the headlines we're following today.
So tomorrow, sentencing is expected for Austin Thompson. He pleaded guilty last month to killing 5 people in Raleigh's Hedingham neighborhood back in 2022. He also pleaded guilty to 2 attempted murder charges and 3 for assault. Thompson was 15 when he went on a shooting rampage in that neighborhood. His 16-year-old brother at the time and an off-duty officer were among the people who were killed.
3 more homes along the Outer Banks collapsed into the ocean this morning. They were in Buxton. Another home fell yesterday morning. The homes that are falling were once hundreds of feet away from the water. New pictures show the debris all over the beach and in the ocean this morning. 31 homes have now collapsed into the ocean on Hatteras Island.
Duke Energy customers can now go back to their normal energy usage after being asked to conserve it over the weekend. It was an effort because of the demand after the winter storm aftermath in order to help prevent a strain on the grid. A combination of bitter cold temperatures and heavy morning heating demand, that is what created what Duke Energy called a brief but critical window. Well, the village that houses Olympic athletes is taking shape ahead of the games.
Some of the athletes who will compete arrived at Milan's Olympic Village on Sunday. Around 1,500 athletes and team members will stay in the village during the games. It includes spaces for relaxation, a gym, a video game area, a bar, makeup areas, and a large canteen. The cafeteria will supply athletes with healthy foods as they prepare for their competitions. Remember, you can watch the Winter Olympics right here on WRAL. Coverage of the opening ceremony starts Friday afternoon at 1:40.
Well, the stars were out at the 2026 Grammy Awards, and some of the biggest names in music and entertainment took home awards, including Bad Bunny for Album of the Year. You also have Ariana Grande winning Best Pop Duo, and with, I always mess up her last name, Cynthia
Erivo.
Yes. I keep wanting to say it the other way. And director Steven Spielberg achieved EGOT status after winning the Grammy for Best Music Film. And of course, we are looking a little bit more about what else other events are going to happen because he's going to be playing the Super Bowl at the halftime. So it's pretty cool.
The Seattle Seahawks and New England Patriots have touched down in California ahead of Super Bowl 60. The two teams will be gearing up for a rematch of Super Bowl 49. You may remember that was when the Patriots beat the Seahawks in a dramatic 28-24 victory. Both teams finished this season with a 14-3 record. Both quarterbacks, Drake May and Sam Darnold, will be looking for their first championship win. Super Bowl 60 is coming up this Sunday. WRAL is your place to watch the big game. Kickoff at Levi Stadium is set for 6:30 p.m.
Well, our pet of the day comes to us from Purr Partners. Nikki is an 8-month-old domestic short-hair cat. She's a bit shy, but sweet and affectionate when she feels safe. Nikki is good with other cats as well, dogs and gentle kids. She would thrive with a feline buddy and a patient family. Nikki's adoption fee is $140, and this includes her spay, microchip, vaccines, and other wellness care. If you're interested in adopting her, you can contact Purr Partners.
Today on WRAL News at 4, a Duke professor named in recently released files from the Jeffrey Epstein investigation. How the two knew each other and the extent of their relationship. That's coming up today at 4. NBC News Daily is next on WRAL. Your next local news update in 30 minutes.
And don't forget, you can always get breaking news and weather updates anytime with our WRAL News app. Just make sure you turn on those push notifications. Hope you have a blessed day today.
Keep watching WRAL News over the air channel 34 and Spectrum channel 1257.